I had seen him. You couldn't tell a lot of his damages, and at the time, Kilo 6 had told me later that a piece had come up through on the bottom of his throat, went straight up, and we did not know that at the time because it was all red, the capillary bleeding. I was worried as long as that the pressure from the grenade, and like I said, every day that he lived, I was hopeful for it, and that's the only thing I could tell the platoon because they'd ask every day for updates, but yeah, it was just. And the biggest thing is we still had to go work and everything. And I remember on the 14th, because your body goes through these physiological changes that you really can't describe till you do it. And when everything happened, you just go off your training and then you don't think about it. But I remember us being at Camp Gannon there at Lima's Paws, and it was just about the sun was going to set here in another hour or so, but we had to roll through that damn town again and go back to our train station. But I remember then I felt sick, and I had to switch spots with the Marine from sitting in the back up against the cab of the Humvee to the end so I could dry heave. And and then I remember going back that night. I wrote up a statement that was a page and a half long because I knew what had happened, and I knew it was going to be Medal of Honor or Navy Cross for what he did, or I was hoping. But I also remember, too, waking up in the middle of the night in that train station violently just from the explosion again and hearing that and just sitting upright violently. And, it's like you can train yourself for that, but until you experience that, it's just you can't help that. And then I remember some of the Marines being angry and they wanted, retaliation, especially since we had those 3 enemy POWs. But, we can't, we got to get them back. Intel, collect all that stuff, the bigger picture thing. But yeah, there was some tough days for the company.
Well, one thing that it's interesting both you guys mentioned is and this is a double-edged sword, but I'll take it, is you had work to do. And we're going to have to deal with these things at some point, but when I lost my first guy, Mark Lee, there's no instruction manual on protocols to follow. There's no book procedure that we could follow. There was nothing like that. And it was just me. And Mark was the first SEAL killed in Iraq. And, there wasn't a lot of experience in dealing with that. And what I said to the guys was, we're going to go back to work. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to work. And I believe there is something beneficial to that. And one of the things that I notice a lot when guys when they have a hard time, a lot of times I see it's guys that don't have a new mission of some kind. What is your new mission going to be? And that's one of the things that I advise, military folks that are transitioning out of the military. You need a new mission. You got to have something else to focus on, because if you don't do that, then you're stuck thinking about this stuff. And those thoughts, you have to have them, right? You have to have them. You're going to have them over time. We were talking about this earlier. You're going to have those thoughts over time. You got to sort this out in your head. But just like when you get sick and you take medicine, you don't take all the medicine at once. You don't take all the medicine at once. You take it a little bit at a time, and you bring it back a little bit at a time, and you heal up over time. And I believe that's a good thing about having, when you're on deployment, guess what we're going to do? We're going to have a ceremony, and then we're going to get back to work tomorrow afternoon. And I think that's beneficial. And we don't always get that opportunity. And especially guys that get home and get out, it can be really hard because they don't have a new mission, and they try and take all that medicine at once, which is hard to take. Hard to take all that medicine at the same time. Hey, the medicine is going to be there. Your brain has to get sorted out over time. But take your time with it. And one of the only ways to do that is if you have a new mission, something else to focus on. And you guys getting Kazavak'd home, what was that process like?
we got split up at Battalion Aid because I was a little more severe than Bill.
Yes.
So I remember getting picked up from LZ Parrott, and they stuck me at the very roof of the Black Hawk. All I could see was the ceiling, and all I could hear was the blades. And then I must have passed out a little bit on that flight because it was really short. I remember waking up in Battalion Aid, and they were working on my arms. I still couldn't hear for shit, and I was really just out of it, but I wasn't. It was like, it felt very surreal. Like I could sense everything that was going on, and I could see people doing stuff, but at the same time, like I just wasn't mentally processing what was going on. Like the doctors asked me if anything was wrong with my mouth, and I didn't say anything. I just reached in and pulled out a tooth fragment and showed it to him.
This is the nonverbal answer.
So I believe Gibson and First Sergeant Templeton, did you guys come into BAS and see me before I flew out of Battalion Aid?
Negative.
Then it must have been...
It may have been Templeton.
Okay.
Right.
Because
we were in zone until...
It might have been him and Rob. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was
okay. I remember them coming in, and it was right before I was getting pushed out to Al-Assad, because I think I needed some debridement surgeries, which I got in Al-Assad. And basically, once I left Battalion 8, I was by myself. I didn't have anybody else. In Al-Assad, I got sweatpants because I was in just boxers. And one of the Navy people there let me use a sat phone, and I called home. Unfortunately, I regret that because I left my dad out to dry on that one. Sorry, Dad.
What was the message? Hey, Dad got wounded. Guess you're not home. Sorry. Bye.
No, he answered, and it was daytime, so my mom was at work. So I called my dad. I called home, and my dad answered, and I was like, hey, Dad, I just want to let you know I got hurt. Okay. I'm okay. I'm going to end up in Germany soon. I don't know when. But I wanted to let you know. And that was it. He said, okay, I love you, you know, and everything. But the problem was my mom had a lot more questions. And he didn't have any answers, you know. I mean, he was just happy that I called and told him I was okay. He didn't think to ask stuff, so I kind of left my dad out to dry on that one. But I think I was in Al-Assad for 2 days. I had 2 debridement surgeries, and then they casevaced me out to Germany. In Germany, I had 2 more debridement surgeries, bandage changes, and I was there for 5 days. And I was actually paired up with one of the guys that was on the roof that got hit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he had taken a bullet in the hip, and it traveled down his leg bones and came out his pinky toe.
that was the damn sniper team that was supporting Lima 3 that morning.
Yes, I can't remember his name. He ended up...
Thompson?
Yes, and he casevaced to Texas from Germany, because that's where he was from. So once I left Germany, I hit Bethesda for 4 days. I had 1 more debridement surgery, and that was it there. And then I hit Balboa in San Diego. And in Bethesda, my mom actually had flown out to Maryland. And she was there in Bethesda with me, and she flew on the military flight from Bethesda to San Diego.
Was she pissed?
She didn't show it. She was amazing. The hoops she jumped through to find out when I was getting to Bethesda were pretty impressive. She had an old friend who was a retired Air Force colonel. She got a hold of him. He actually found out what casevac flight I was on. And then she rallied her friends to get air miles and flew out and met me there.
Outstanding.
Yeah. And then in Balboa, I had 2 oral surgeries and like a 7th debridement surgery because my arm had gotten hit so bad. And swelling. I was basically pushing the muscle out of the wounds. So they had to clean that up, and I had no function. And I was in San Diego. Bill beat me to San Diego because I actually linked up with him there because I was there for a week and a half before they sent me home on convalescent leave because I couldn't take care of myself. So they just literally, here's 60 days, go home. Mm-hmm. So I went back home to Eureka, and then in Eureka I had 4 more surgeries. 2 days from being home, I reached out to grab a glass of water with my right arm, and I had a piece of metal sitting right on my brachial artery on my right-hand side. The flexing from the muscle pushed the piece of shrapnel down, ruptured my brachial, and my arm swole up huge and just caused increased amount of pain. So I had to have emergency surgery that night. That was a 12-hour vascular surgery on my right arm where I got a vein from my ankle grafted in and a whole bunch of stuff. And then 2 weeks later on my follow-up for that, the doctor, I asked my question to the doctor about my left arm because there was this weird vibration in my armpit I could feel with my right hand. He puts his hand under there. He's like, you have an AV fistula. You're going in for surgery tonight. So
you had a what? What was it?
It's an AV fistula. So my brachial artery had a hole in it. Oh. And also my vein had a hole in it. So blood's coming out of my brachial artery and going back into my vein. It's not traveling down my arm like it's supposed to. And it creates like a really low, they call it a thrill, but it vibrates. And you can feel it. Man, it was bad enough. So that was 16 hours. Surgery happened that night. And then the rehab started for me. That was 8 months of physical therapy, 2 more surgeries, a lot of cussing, lots of cussing. And so like my recovery process is after the surgeries is the Marine Corps tried to medically discharge me because I was a broken Marine. That was unacceptable to me. So Captain Gibson at the time, he put me into company office staff. I was the scribe. And so I did that while I was rehabbing. And when he rotated out, we got a new captain, Captain Gibson, who was our new company commander, and he allowed me to stay on and keep rehabbing. Oh, yeah, Ash, sorry. Captain Ash. And it got to the point where I was banned from his office because he was tired of me asking to go back to my platoon. And it took me 9 months of physical therapy and rehab and a lot of getting yelled at to stop asking. And Captain Ash told me that I better not bring it up again unless I had a note from my doctor, my physical therapist, and my mom telling me I was okay enough to go back to the platoon.
And your mom.
And my mom. I think I shocked him the next day when I came into the office with a note from my doctor, my physical therapist, and my mom.
I'm surprised you got your mom to sign off, but that's all good.
So she knew I had to because we were gearing up to deploy to Ramadi. And the whole time I was like, I signed up to serve my 4 years. I'm not getting medically discharged. I signed up to do my 4 years. So, and she didn't like it, but she respected it, I think. And so he let me go back to my platoon, and I deployed again. But it was a need. I needed to prove to myself I wasn't meant to die there. I had to go back and make sure all my brothers made it back. You know, I had to do what Dunham did for me. I had to make sure everybody made it back. And I had to serve my 4 years. It was this esprit de corps drive to do what I signed up to do. And I the whole time I went through the emotional rainbow on this journey. It wasn't an easy journey at all. I went from self-destructive to depression to I thought I was invincible. A lot of bad choices, but in the end I found this path of I'm not fucking hurt. I'm not fucking hurt. I got staples in my arm and I played in a slow-pitch softball tournament at home. Got yelled at by my mom. Try being 21 on a field with 20 of your friends and your mom shows up and starts fucking yelling at you. It's embarrassing. But that's how I healed. Is I got so fed up with being hurt that I said, fuck it, I'm not hurt. I'll play one-handed. I would have deployed one-handed. I mean, shit, I mostly deployed with arm in a 2/3 because my left arm wasn't strong. I still didn't have full range of mobility. I was good enough to fake it and make it look good. you know. But it was just about like coping, and